Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's live session of Daily Current Affairs with Sathya sir. This is me, Satyanarayan from IQ Ideas. I bring you important news updates from a daily newspaper and also recommend interesting articles from the current edition, which you can read to improve your English reading comprehension skills and also point out certain interesting words in English to improve your vocabulary. So, without further ado, let's jump into the news articles of today. The biggest headline on the half page, the front page, is the Vadodara Bridge collapse. Of course, a very unfortunate event that happened. So, the Vadodara Bridge collapse, which happened, was a great tragedy, and of course, the authorities would be very well looking into what could be the reason, what are the infrastructural problems, and this is going to be at least in the local city and state level news. But although a sad incident, this is not something which we will be following up for long with perspective of current affairs for entrance exams. Okay, so moving ahead, we have the back of the front half page, which has an interesting article of history related to Bollywood, which is something related to archiving of the history of Bollywood. So that is something which movie buffs, Bollywood aficionados can read. And on top of that is a digital arrest scam hub. Okay, so that would be something related to the scam of digital arrest which happens. So these are two interesting articles, not very important for current affairs, but definitely which can be read as human interest pieces which you can bring up in conversations. Coming to the first main page, we have been following the news of the SIR, which has been in the news ahead of the Bihar elections. And of course, the Supreme Court heard a case with the Election Commission. So the biggest headline says the Supreme Court to the Election Commission consider Aadhaar, voter ID, and ration card for SIR. So the Supreme Court has said to the EC to consider the Aadhaar, the voter ID, and the ration card for SIR. So obviously we should be asking ourselves what is SIR, and we have seen what is exactly the SIR, special intensive revision, right? So ahead of the Bihar polls, there is an extreme revision of the electoral polls, electoral rolls, that is the list of registered voters which is happening. And of course, there was a news yesterday about how certain documents were being accepted in certain regions but not in the other, and a major confusion in terms of that. So the Supreme Court has obviously asked the EC to consider both Aadhaar, voter ID, and ration card. It also says that it has definitely questioned the timing of this entire exercise, but it still has allowed the Bihar drive to continue. Okay. Although the court has flagged the practical difficulty in completing the task within a short deadline, the Election Commission has assured that it would meet the deadline with 60% of the work already done. Okay, so that is going to be a very interesting thing ahead of the Bihar elections, with the opposition, of course, raising issues regarding the same, and something which is definitely worth following. Okay. Below that, of course, we have an update of the tariff issues as raised by Donald Trump. Will negotiate a complete deal. Team heads to DC for trade talks. So, further talks on the India-US trade deal are lined up. So, this news that we are going to be following with great interest. Further Indo-US talks regarding trade is obviously lined up. The news reads that further talks on the India-US trade deals are lined up in the coming days, with negotiators once again headed to Washington as the government seeks to finalize an agreement without any deadline pressure. So President Donald Trump of United States very famously was on a spree putting a lot of tariffs on different countries, then gave a 90-day grace period, apparently, so to say. And of course, the grace period ended in the beginning of this week. and right after that we have been having a flurry of news related to tariffs being posed on individual countries. In fact, even yesterday we read an interesting news article where about I think 14 countries had tariffs put on them. But the interesting thing to observe in that was that none of them were actually major trade partners. Now, India, being of course one of the largest economies in the world, cannot be handled like a small country, right? And it has to be taken very seriously. So, on behalf of India, we are definitely not going to fall under pressure of time. We have to be considering national interest at the foremost. So we are not differentiating between an interim or first phase of the bilateral trade agreement. We are negotiating a complete deal. Whatever will be finalized, we can package it as an interim deal, and for the rest, talks will continue, said an official, days after President Donald Trump announced that US was close to making a deal with India. Okay. Now, earlier, President Trump and Prime Minister Modi had set a deadline for finalizing a bilateral trade deal by September, October. But with reciprocal tariffs announced, interim tranche or mini deal entered the picture. Okay, so this is going to be a very, very interesting news to follow for those in management, for those in economics, for those interested in business studies. And the mini article within the main article is also about various snippets related to President Trump. Okay, those are the two main things. Below that is a small article, but something which again caught my eye and seems to be very, very relevant from the business perspective. So, Ferrero to buy WK Kellogg in $3.1 billion deal. Okay, let's see what this is. So, Italian candy maker Ferrero has agreed to acquire American cereal giant WK Kellogg in a deal valued at $3.1 billion. Oh, so the transaction includes manufacturing, marketing, and distribution of Kellogg's portfolio of breakfast cereals across US, Canada, and Caribbean, marking Ferrero's push to grow its business in North America. Now, both these businesses are big brands, so any such news will obviously be of great interest in the world of business. So, with that, we move on to the next page, the city page. The biggest news is, of course, related to faulty flyovers in the aftermath of the Vadodara Bridge collapse. Other than that, mostly corruption and crimes related news, not of interest. The next city page, the top is groundnut cotton sowing grows due to timely rains. Now, civil services and administrative services aspirants, UPSC and state civil service aspirants should definitely be following news like this, because you are required to be aware of different agricultural trends, crop patterns, the impact of weather, and so on and so forth. India being an agrarian country, majorly does depend upon rainfall. Farmers do. A large percentage of farmers still are dependent on rain. So these type of news articles would definitely be of interest to those specific aspirants. The next city page has a lot of crime related news which is of no interest. The state level news again has an article related to the bridge collapse, and it is titled Compliance Gaps, Bridges in Gujarat Despite New Rules, Old Problems. Okay, so you can read it out of interest, but I don't see any major national level entrance exam article coming out of that. The Nation page has political temperature rises in Jammu and Kashmir as NC raises Martyrs Day heat. Seeks holiday in July 13th, PDP pans move, Apni party back sit. Okay, so that is some political issue related to holidays in Jammu and Kashmir. There's an article, Tharoor writes article critical of both emergency and Gandhis. Now this is going to be an interesting read. Shashi Tharoor, of course, member of parliament from Thiruvananthapuram and Kerala, stalwart of the Congress party, member of the delegation picked by Prime Minister Modi in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor to go to different countries. Very learned, very erudite person known for his bombastic English. has served with the United Nations for a seriously long period of time, and his speeches are definitely worth listening to, more for his use of language and his oratory skills than the content. Okay, the next nation page has article where the Supreme Court has said, how can the Election Commission venture into citizenship issue of voters? So that's an update of the SIR happening before the Bihar elections. Okay, process to get Aadhaar for adults now tougher. Interesting. Okay, Karnataka to redraft fake news bill after furor over Sanatan clause. Okay, so just an interesting word which I can pick up from that is the word furor. So when you are angry at something and you raise your voice against it, you shout. That's a furor, right? A lot of shouting which happens. That's a furor, uproar. Below the fold is an interest article. After 30 years, the Indian rosewood runs out of cover. In February, a state law shielding heritage tree Nilgiris expired without renewal. Government says it is no longer relevant. Environmentalists say it is a blow to biodiversity. So for those interested in environment and conservation, will definitely read it. I guess we could read this entire article and maybe come up with either a reading comprehension passage or a critical reasoning question. The next nation page, main news is related to some Ponzi scheme and fraud. So I'm going to skip all that. Now we come to my favorite, the middle page, opinion articles. Okay, who's the big river daddy? India is not at the kind of hydrological disadvantage in Brahmaputra's case as Pakistan is in Indus's. China's real upstream strength is data. India's downstream defenses have to be science-backed. Okay, so this is an article by Uttam Sinha, who is a senior fellow at the Manohar Parrikar IDSA. Okay, in wake of the Pahalgam incident, the Indus Water Treaty between India and Pakistan, India said that it will have a serious look at that. Then there were major concerns that in reciprocal action, what if China decides to do something similar to the Brahmaputra? And a lot of people were of the opinion that the way Pakistan would get affected because of actions on the Indus Water, India would not have major problems like that if China decides to do something with the Brahmaputra. So I guess this particular article may give you some insights into that. Okay. Below that, we have a column by Harsh Goenka. Self-help mantra, are you ready to retire? The Boardroom Jungle Book has it all laid out. Lighter notes aside, if there is a purpose in your work and you're still learning and growing, you're good to go on. So that seems to be an interesting read. Nothing of news, but more of language. The left three articles, top one being a Bihar voter. Uneven application of document rules across the state risks disenfranchisement. Clarity needed fast. This is an opinion piece on the same thing which we have seen today, that is the Supreme Court directions to the Election Commission with regards to its special intensive revision ahead of the Bihar electoral polls. Below that, the next piece, respect all choices. No need, no reason to ban meat shops along Kanwar Yatra routes in Delhi, multicultural city. Okay, so India being secular, but there are a lot of bans or temporary bans which occur especially during religious festivals of particular specific religions. So the ban on meat is always been a contentious issue. This is a view opinion on that. And the last one is Jug Suraiya's humor column Jugular Vein. Thankful Britain, a country that always expects expressions of gratitude even for its past misdeeds. So Jug Suraiya, known for his humorous style of writing, would definitely have a humorous uptake on that. Okay, the next special page, Flying Blind in the Himalayas. With no radar, no air traffic control and unpredictable clouds, helicopters make thousands of trips each year to Kedarnath, relying only on instinct and faith. Interesting. Next, flights may be hurting the wild. Okay. The Garhwal Himalayas are home to vulnerable species like snow leopard. A study found that heavy chopper traffic is forcing changes in the behavior of local wildlife. environmental activists and wildlife nature lovers would read that. We have a column on the man from Trichy whom Gandhi called fierce anarchist. VVS Iyer went to London as an ambitious young man looking to become a barrister. He returned a full-fledged revolutionary, right-hand man of Veer Savarkar, and trained other young men to wage war on the empire. Okay, so the piece by Vamanan, who is a journalist and author, seems a little bit of the lesser-known history of India. I would definitely suggest that you read that. Moving ahead, the global page updates on Trump and his sanctions. One is Trump seems to be warning to new sanctions on Russia. Trump asks Liberia president where he learned English, when English is the first language of Liberia. Judge blocks Trump's birthright citizenship EU executive order in class action challenge. Trump vows 50% tariffs on Brazil, citing witch hunt against Bolsonaro. Okay. Russia has conducted direct assault on Ukraine's culture. This is Ukrainian ambassador Alexander Polishchuk responding to his Russian counterpart's letter. Okay. One interesting piece is regarding Bangladesh's ousted head of state Sheikh Hasina. Former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was indicted in cases of crimes against humanities in absentia by Bangladesh International Crimes Tribunal, with one of the co-accused, former IG of police, turning state witness to the alleged atrocities perpetrated by her government during the last year protests that led to her ouster. So that is a news which we can be following with interest. Okay, coming to the business page. Okay, Unilever beauty business head Priya Nair is HUL's CEO. Snippet relevant. Nutella maker Ferrero to buy Kellogg's business for $3.1 billion. A little bit more details on the news snippet from the front page. Okay. Z shareholders block 2,000 crore rupees infusion in setback to founder. Subhash Chandra and family aim to raise stake to 18% from 4%. Okay. Business aspirants should be following all that. Coming to the sports page, we have news from the Wimbledon. Updates on that, but when we reach the finals, we'll be taking a look at individual winners. The next page is, of course, devoted to the current test series between India and England. Boswell, root and England drop anchor. England takes a step back to reach 251 for 4 at stumps on tricky Lord's Day 1 pitch. Okay, so interesting news articles both from the world of cricket and tennis. And the last nation page has High Court stays release of Udaipur Files movie. The court asks government to take a decision. Okay, in a rare case of judicial intervention, the Delhi High Court has stayed the release of a movie hours before it was to hit screens nationwide on Friday. The court stopped the release of Udaipur Files, purportedly based on the Taylor Kanhayalal murder case, after marathon hearings spread over nearly 3 hours. It heard in detail the objections to the movie and the submissions by the center and producers of the film seeking its release. Okay, potentially hot issue. We should be reading that and seeing if there are any repercussions as a result of it. Movies, especially on controversial topics, have always been a matter of interest. Sad outcomes sometimes, but definitely hot in the news. So this is me, Sathya, bringing today's session to an end. If you like this video, do hit the like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. In the comments, leave any comment that you may have, any other style of news delivery, news discussion that you would like, any important topics that we should be covering.